Shalom Bethel family. It's time for our weekly installment of the recap of our Shabbos discussion. This past week in Shul, we had Shabbat Hazon. Not only was the Torah portion Deuteronomy, but is also the Shabbat that immediately precedes Tisha B'Av. And it's generally a time of sadness. The Torah portion uses the word Echa in the second Aliyah, kind of linking it, Echa, as Lamentations, the Megillah that we read that night on Tisha B'Av. And so we had a really interesting discussion about what exactly we can learn about happiness from this day when we are supposed to be sad, Tisha B'Av, the saddest day on our calendar. And we started out with an interesting discussion about, Judaism has this idea that it can legislate our emotions, right? That we are supposed to be happy in the month of Adar leading up to Purim, just as we're supposed to be sad in the month of Av leading up to Tisha B'Av. On the high holiday season, we're supposed to be solemn and reflective. And even our most basic prayer, the Shema, tells us, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha. Not only we should love the Lord our God, but b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha, with all our hearts and all our souls and all our might. And so I think that there's a very interesting key sort of to happiness that we learn from these Jewish ideas. And indeed, you can legislate emotions, and that we have maybe more control of our emotions than our emotions have of us, or at least we're capable of that. And so on the source sheet that you can download on the email that came with the video, you can see I brought a few of my favorite sources about happiness to sort of unlock these Jewish keys to happiness. And Shabbat Hazon, this time to be sad, we'll see, fits in there as well. First, I brought from Pirkei Avot, one of my favorite passages in a Mishnah that you've heard me quote many times. Shammai said, "Make your Torah study fixed, say little and do much, and receive everyone with a cheerful countenance." So I asked the congregation, why should we greet everyone with a cheerful countenance? And the answer was, when we greet others with a smile, it makes them happy. They want to smile as well. But we unlocked a different idea here, which is that, when we smile at someone else, not only does it change their mood, but it also has the potential to change our mood, right? And that studies show, psychologists, it's a big pop psychology idea, that when we smile, we actually get happier ourselves. There's an experiment that was done. Researchers had people hold a pencil in their mouth. They either held it horizontally so that they had to smile, or like this, so that they had to frown. And then they looked at pictures and how much more positive the responses to the pictures were when their faces, their muscles were turned up, not because they were happy, just because something about wearing a smile fundamentally changes what happens for us inside. So smile at people, not only for their sake, but also for our own. The next source I brought was Rabbi Nachman of Braslav from his Likutei Moharan. It says, "It is a great mitzvah to be happy always. Strengthen yourself to push aside all depression and sadness. Everyone has lots of problems, and the nature of man is to be attracted to sadness." Interesting. There's a streak of depression among the Hasidic Rebbes, which ultimately made them the masters of happiness. He said, the nature of man is to be attracted to happiness, to sadness. To escape these difficulties, constantly bring joy into your life, even if you have to resort to silliness. Now, that might not sound like a big deal to us, but being silly is actually sinful behavior in traditional Judaism. One of the things that we say al chetz for on Yom Kippur is when we were too frivolous with our thoughts. But here, Rabbi Nachman is saying, even be silly. Change your behavior. Even if it's not, maybe even the most kosher thing, in the way we behave. Go to see a stand-up comic. Go to see a funny movie, even if it's a little edgy, right? Because being happy is worth it. And we have to work at it. We have to work at it. And lastly, Rabbi Meir Chodesh, the Mashgiach, as quoted in Everyday Holiness by Alan Marinas, who's going to be a guest of our community in February, he said, and I love this one, it's very important, "It is not the trait of anger that needs working on, but the trait of goodwill. Once a person's anger is aroused, it is too late to work on it. However, if one maintains goodwill and sees things in a positive light, one will never reach the point of getting angry. Right? What Rebbe Meir Chodesh is saying is that it's not up to us to be led by our emotions, whether it's anger or joy or sadness, but it's up to us to prepare ourselves such that the way we react to things will be different. So when we seek to build the relationships and the support that give us joy, when we understand what makes us happy, we understand that helping others makes us happy, it gives us that ability by preparing in our lives to feel joy more often and more deeply. And that's the key to Shabbat Hazon as well. Rabbi Nachman said we should be happy always. But the truth is, I don't think that's possible. We can strive to be happy always, but there's always going to be sadness in life, right? But by preparing, we can manage that sadness differently. And Shabbat Hazon, what the rabbis did was they gave us a finite time from the 1st of Av to the 9th of Av to Tisha B'Av to feel the sadness for all of our people's sorrows, for all the destruction we've experienced and all the anti-Semitism and all of that. We could drown in it all year long if we let ourselves. The rabbi said, no, we need to acknowledge it. So let's compartmentalize it. This is the time of year to embrace that, to live in it, to feel that sadness, so that we can set it aside the rest of the year and look at Judaism for all the things that make it joyful, all the beauty it brings into our lives by giving us spiritual and meaningful moments and a community to support us and a relationship with each other and with ourselves and with God that we find so valuable. And so now Shabbat Chazon has passed. Shabbat Nachamu is on its way, the Shabbat of comfort, and what a comforting thought it is that the joy of Judaism is awaiting us. And so I wish you lots of joy as we now turn to the 7 weeks of comfort leading towards the high holidays, and look forward to sharing that happiness with you in synagogue and in our lives.